On Monday, the Lagos State Judicial Panel of Inquiry on Restitution for Victims of SARS-related abuses and other matters submitted its reports on the Lekki tollgate shooting on the evening of October 20, 2020, and on police brutality to Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu. Not only did the report on the Lekki tollgate shooting indict the Nigerian Army and the police force for killing at least 11 protesters and injuring many others, it described the shooting of unarmed ENDSARS protesters who were singing the Nigerian anthem and waving the Nigerian flag at the toll plaza as a massacre. The report also indicted the Lekki Concession Company for tampering with the video evidence and scene of the crime, as well as covering up the carnage that transpired. Although the federal government and the police are yet to react to the reports, the Chief of Defense, General Lucky Irabor, yesterday took umbrage with the manner the report on the Lekki tollgate shooting was released. According to him, the report was released through the wrong channel. He then proceeded to approbate and reprobate in a matter of seconds. In one breath, he exonerated the Army, calling it a professional institution that should not be disparaged because of his hard work protecting the territorial integrity of the country. And in another breath, he said that he had not seen the report and therefore could not comment on it. Well, joining us now to discuss the findings in both reports and the political will to implement the recommendations contained in them, we have Femi Okuno, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Additional Ogunlana, Counsel to the ENDSARS protesters at the Judicial Panel, and Temitope Majekodunmi, a youth representative on the same panel. Good morning, gentlemen, and welcome to the morning show.
Good morning.
Okay, Mr. Okuno, let me start with you. What's your take in all of this? Two reports, both reports of great concern to Nigerians, and we have that reaction from the state government talking about another committee to prepare a white paper, and also General Lucky Irabor saying the Nigerian Army was misrepresented in that report. What do you think will happen the way forward? Because earlier on this program, our concern was that perhaps this will be one of those reports that will be swept under the carpet.
Well, I would respectfully like the viewers to share my background experience in organizing public demonstrations against governments both in UK in the late 50s and Nigerian government in early 60s. As the General Secretary of the Nigerian Union of Great Britain and Ireland in 1958, when our leaders came over to London for yet another constitutional conference, we, students and non-students, organized a demonstration against them at Lancaster House. I was principally the organizer of that demonstration. We felt that yet another conference after the 1957 conference in London was unnecessary. No tear gas, no tear gas was fired against us. It was a peaceful demonstration. And when our leaders, all of them, signed a defense pact with Great Britain before independence in 1959, I will publicly declare that it was Malam Aminu Kano who told me of the defense pact. I was at that time president of the union. I organized another demonstration at Parliament Square. All the British government did was to deploy our line of demonstrators to a side street no tear gas, nothing. It was all fun. With our placards spoke for themselves. In 1961 or thereabouts, as General Secretary of the Nigerian Youth Congress, with an umbrella organization with the labor movements led by Wahab Goodluck of blessed memory, and S.U. Bassi, the Secretary of the Labor Movement at that time. And also with the students' movement, students in particular from Ibadan University, whose transport we paid for. We organized a mammoth demonstration against the Anglo-Nigerian Defense Pact. And when Lumumba was murdered by CIA, Lumumba, you remember, Prime Minister of Belgian Congo at that time. Again, I was the center of organizing a demonstration against the imperialist crime. But for age, and I now work with a walking stick. But for that, I could have been at the toll gate myself last year to demonstrate against the government for several iniquities, not only Lagos State, but federal government. So I thought I should give you that background. I could have been there. Now, as to the reports which is circulating, and I listen to your program literally every morning. You wake me up too early. My own view is that let us wait for the government's copy, duly signed by Justice Okwabi and the other members of the panel. That would be the authentic report of the panel. They cannot hide, the government cannot hide it, because members of the panel have their own signed copies. So the report should be published, warts and all, pimples and all. Whether the report criticized the federal government, the army, the police, the Lagos State government, it should be published in full. The purpose of a white paper, and I'll go back to what Rufai said earlier this morning about the Udi Valley massacre in 1949. That was the past. But that incident led to United Front. As Lagos was Nigeria in those days. Nigeria, Lagos, with all people from different parts of Nigeria. No discrimination of where you came from. If you settled in Lagos, you were accepted by Lagos people as Nigerians. The Nigerian youth movement, which was in its dying days, founded by Dr. Vaughan, and the National Democratic Party, in alliance with NCNC, organized a united front. The purpose of a white paper is for the government to set out its own views, paragraph by paragraph of a report, not to argue with the panel, but to set out its own views and say whether it accepts the recommendation in paragraph 1 or rejects the recommendation. That's the purpose of the white paper. It's not to rewrite a report. The purpose is to set out government's views, paragraph by paragraph, of the panel's report, and what it intends to do. That's all, no argument. All this must be in the public arena.
Thank you so much. Question is for you, Mr. Ogundano. Thank you for joining us. I'd like you to weigh in on the panel report that's raising so much dust. What are your thoughts on that as we wait for the white paper?
What I want to say is that the panel has conducted itself quite honorably by terms of reference. They were meticulous, they were painstaking, and they were hardworking. They gave everyone a chance to present or prosecute his or her cases to the best of his abilities and all that. And I used to say that only what remained for that panel will be the courage to be able to present his findings. And mercifully, that's been done 2 days ago. Now, some people say it was quite astounding, it was quite shocking, and quite unexpected. Well, in a way, they are right, but for those of us who participated in the proceedings of the panel quite extensively, we can't be shocked. Now, it is in the court of the government that set it up by regular law, you know, that protects the establishment. When you set up a panel of inquiry, the panel of inquiry recommendations will be presented to government or whoever set up the authority, the convening authority. It's now up to the convening authority of what to make of it. Lagos State government itself is now the one that is under trial. The report has been presented, and the report is known by people. Whether they will now have the courage to stand up by the recommendations and trust their own panel is a different thing. If by the antecedents of government in Nigeria, generally, what they tend to do is to play politics with recommendations where they were not expecting it. But Lagos State prides itself to be a center of excellence. The panel has done very well and lived up to its name and the name of the state. Now it's up to Lagos State government itself whether you can abide by the recommendations of a panel that you set up, and where you have representatives on that panel, and where you are represented by your lawyers of your choice at that panel, and you participated. The head of service came to give evidence before the panel representing the Lagos State government and governor. What else do they want to ask for? Now it's a matter of whether they have the necessary integrity to state the cause.
What's your take on it? There's been a lot of back and forth online about the circulation of this. They say there are 2 reports. Let us even know your take on all of this. How many reports do you have in there?
Well, thank you. There are no 2 reports. The only report we have is that which we had submitted to the appointing authority on the 15th of November 2021. So the leaked report is, like I have dropped a statement yesterday, that it could be one of the ones we were vetting to reach a very conclusive report, and because we had reasons as panelists to vet again and again our report to ensure that it is void of any error. So we had done that. So you know, it is worrisome for us too that we had it leaked. You know, for I as the youth rep, I was very surprised. You know, we were still at Alausa that very evening when the leaked copy was already in circulation. So it was worrisome, but then we felt it only speaks to more accountability. But like I've been saying before now, that the content of the leaked report is not far from the original. The facts are same, but maybe in the original, most of these errors are corrected.
You mean typos, yes?
Yes, typos, I mean.
Well, but there are persons who would view that there are very significant departures in the two reports. You were a member of that panel.
Very well.
Now, can you stand before this panel here, because it's also a panel, and say that, in fact, the report that is out there, you say that there are no two reports. There are two. There's one dealing with police brutality. There's the other one dealing with a specific incident on October 20, 2020. Can you just stand here and say, yes, you think that the panel has been fair and just to all parties concerned?
Very well. I'm very confident and bold to say again and again that we were fair, we were just, and the report only speaks to our level of independence and how that we have done this without bias. I'm the youth rep. We were the main reason why this panel is in place, because of our agitations and all of that. But when we had the privilege to sit on the panel, we consistently would tell other panelists that it is not about saying one person is right or one person is wrong. It is that the panel is saddled with a responsibility to restore peace and hope in the society. And that is what this report has confirmed. And if I may come back to saying there are no two reports, the context at which I am saying that is in respect to Lekki investigation reports. There is a leak report and there is a submitted one. So because there is a leak, which was not coming from any of us, to the best of my knowledge, so I would say there is those two. But in context of the assignment itself, there are two standard reports. One in respect to the primary assignment itself, the investigation of police brutality in general, and the investigation of Lekki report. So those were the two reports we submitted.
Was there any attempt by the Lagos State government or the federal government to influence the decision of the panel? Because I stated earlier that it looks like both the state government and the federal government don't seem to be very happy with the conclusions of that panel.
I think it is important for us to trust and wait for the 2 weeks for them to release the original copy. And why I'm saying this is because, you see, the report we submitted is, I maintain, is devoid of any form of bias, is devoid of any form of infiltration. And I would say this to my constituency at large, that we must give kudos to the Lagos State government in particular. They made all resources available for us to actualize the work of the panel. So,
you people collected sitting allowance?
For me, no.
No. When you say they made all?
Yes, we needed logistics to work. The work of the panel, I don't mean the sitting allowance as it were. What I mean is the work, it needed a lot of funding. We had the court at Lekki away from the seat of power. So it requires staffs of the secretariat moving from the Lagos State Secretariat down to, and all of that. So what I'm saying is that they could have crippled the panel by not funding the panel. But they were very sincere, and it is even the only panel that acceded to our request of saying, we don't want a situation where we'll find worthy victims and we have to wait until we are done before we award them compensation. So that alone is a plus. So I applaud them for their sincerity in that regard. But then there was never a time, as far as I am concerned as the youth rep, that I was contacted by any government official. There was never a time, and which that alone, strengthened us. That alone gave us the confidence that they really want the truth. And my hope personally is they want the truth because they want us to really heal and reconcile and move forward as a state.
Thank you for that very important point there. My question is for you, Mr. Okuno, on, based on the last thing Temitope here said about reconciliation and healing, which is inevitable. I mean, the evil deeds have been done, but but life does go on. How do we go on as a result of this? I know earlier you said you wanted to wait for the white paper, but as we talk about healing, can we separate that from the issue of sanctions for whoever has been found responsible? And how does the general population begin to trust in our authorities again after this kind of abuse?
Well, my advice is, first of all, to wait for the official report submitted by Honorable Justice Okwabi. I knew her from childhood, and I trust her. And I believe that the members of the panel who signed maybe one set or two sets of the 2-volume report, that should be published by the government in full, should be presented to the public in full, 2 volumes, not one. And as I've said, warts and all, no, you don't remove any comma or full stop. It should be in full, signed by the chairman and other members of the panel. The purpose of a white paper, from my knowledge and experience, is for the government to set out paragraph by paragraph. Volume 1, paragraph 1, we accept the recommendations or we don't accept the recommendation of the panel and give reasons. Paragraph 2, and go down to the last paragraph. Both volumes of the report, warts and all, pimples and all, no removal of comma or full stop. Government has the right to express its own views on each recommendation made by the panel. We are to expect, I'm waiting very patiently, impatiently I must say, for the government's white paper, not to rewrite the report, but to set out its own views on paragraph by paragraph in volume 1 of the report, also in paragraph by paragraph in volume 2 of the report. What the panel recommended on Army, on police, no addition, no subtraction of what the panel has put in their report in full. And the government, as I've said, has the duty to express its own views. All this should be put in the public domain. And don't put any high price on the reports for the government to sell. If it's not too voluminous, it should be free. If not, it should be at reduced cost to the public. So let the public have that confidence in a government. I'm appealing to the government itself. Your duty is not to rewrite the report, but to put it in the public domain for the press to see, to the public to see what this panel, which I respect the panel, what they recommended and signed, duly signed. So the white paper is not to write another report, but there are comments to see what they want to do about recommendation 1, they accept or they reject. Not to argue with the panel, but just their views.
Okay, sir.
And then we look for the way forward.
Okay. You've said a lot, and I just want to pick it from where Tundu stopped about healing. But when you look at the past, and I'm talking to you now, sir, somebody that was a former federal commissioner in this country, you were a minister of works, so you know the in and out workings of the government. I'm coming to you by saying, hitherto, we've had panels of inquiry, and it was a good thing you talked about the Ivor Valley massacre. In that, we had the Fitzgerald Commission, that we had constant reportage day in, day out on the Daily Times and the likes, but we did not see anything come out. We've had, like Dr. Bati said, panel of inquiry set up for OD. What happened to El Zazaki? Nothing comes out of this panel of inquiry. We just see the reports, and like we use in Nigeria parlance, the report is gathering dust. How will this be different? And after you, sir, I'd like to bring in
public awareness.
Yes.
Yeah.
Go ahead, sir.
Right? Is for you, the press, to do what you are doing. Be on the alert, on your toes, and ensure that the government publishes the report in full. And then its own white paper, also in full. Luckily, it's not just the governor who has a copy of the signed report. Members of the panel themselves, they have their own personal copies, which can be released by any of them if the government doctors the report. So we should have confidence that the government will not dare to doctor either volume 1 or volume 2 of the signed report. My understanding was that the report itself was unanimous. No minority report, thank God.
Okay, Mr. Ogulano, we'll come back to you. We'll just allow Mr. Kuno to finish answering this, and we'll come back to you so you can answer that question too. Mr. Ogulano, please. Thank you, sir. Continue, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, are you done, sir?
Yes.
You can continue, sir.
No, well, my conclusion is that the press should be on the alert and ensure that the report, volumes 1 and 2 of the report, are published in full. The government must supply copies of the 2-volume report to every publishing house, every newspaper, every broadcasting station, and also for the public to buy at a reduced price. I would like to have a copy. So the government must be held accountable for its deeds. The government has promised 2 weeks. 1 week is almost gone. In another 7, 8, 9 days, we expect the government to say, here is the full report of the Justice Okwabi panel. No addition, no subtraction. They should be put in the public domain.
Your turn. What's your reaction? Hello, Mr. Ogulano, are you still with us? Hello, Mr. Ogulano, are you still with us?
Hello? Yes, I'm with you.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Question, please. What's the question, please?
No, the question is about, again, your reaction to the 2 reports and what you think is going to come out of this.
Well, to the 2 reports, I was saying that the idea of a white paper was always conceived jurisprudentially to protect the establishment. I mean, you set up a panel, and then the law allows you either to accept or to reject it in your wisdom. That is exercise of political control. But if you are responsible to your people, and you are sure you've composed a good panel, which has done a good job, then you have no hesitation to be able to accept what they have said. After all, you've given them a special task, and in this case, almost a year, and headed by a seasoned jurist. There is a senior advocate of Nigeria among them. I think about 2 or 3 or 4 of them are lawyers there. And so more than 4, almost everybody is a lawyer there. Virtually, even the police gentleman, Deputy Inspector General of Police, is a lawyer. So if they have sat down together for about 12 months, and they've come out with a report, and which you have interest in, and which you are represented by counsel of your choice, and they used to say senior advocates of Nigeria. So what is your problem? Accept it. Accept the report. You accept the report. So that is the way that people will be mollified, people will be encouraged, mistakes have been made, and then you have accepted your fault, and now you do the necessary thing. Aside of a compensation, then you prosecute by yourself. This idea of going to UN or go to anybody I do not support it. It's a problem created by Nigerians in Nigeria. Let Nigerians deal with it responsibly and honorably. That is the way forward.
I have to ask you, obviously, since you're in the demographic that was most affected by the horror that happened at the Lekki tollgate, what kind of course should be charted as a way forward at this point?
First is the entire constituency, as youths, as it were, wants a situation where we can be able to trust the people in authority. Again, there's been a very high level of distrust, and with the reports before us, the challenging issue for the past few hours that we submitted the report has been that there had been some form of interpretation, politically punching hole into the leaked copy and all of that. I feel beyond the mistakes that may be identified, the facts are not changing. The truth has been said. Let us be responsible enough to stand up, to face these challenges, prosecute whoever is necessary to be prosecuted. And, it brings confidence back to us. It restores our hope. Youth in Nigeria in general, specifically Lagos that I represent, we had lost hope. And the process is only helping us to regain hope again, just to ensure that, we do not lose Nigeria totally. Everybody wants to travel, but now, even while you are abroad, you are still very much interested in what is going on in the country. I just would advise and say that government should stay responsible rather than play political about the report.
I have to ask you again, this is the second reference you've made to mistakes in the leaked report. I want you to clarify. Those mistakes, we have to stress it. Okay. Typos, are they not?
Yeah,
they're not. They don't relate to the substance.
The facts are not changing.
Right.
Good. The recommendations are not changing. That's why I said the leaked report and the original are not far from each other.
Are they one?
They are one.
Yeah. One report, because what we're hearing is so I want you as a member of the panel now to confirm to me that the leaked report and the original report are the same.
Same recommendation, to the best of my knowledge, same findings, to the best of my knowledge. What I cannot confirm is, because in the original, we had reasons to, vet more than 4 or 5 times. So possibly in the original, most of these errors pointed out may not exist in the original. The typos, I mean now. But I can confirm that the findings, the recommendations, our executive summary are same.
Okay. So after all of this, the way forward, the path to reconciliation, the path to ensuring that we don't have cases of police brutality, what campaign are the young people doing as regards that? Because police brutality still continues. We've had cases, we have incidents like that of people still brutalized by police. What are other advocacies?
You know, our advocacy still remains the same, and it brings us back to the 5x5 demand. The 5x5 demand, beyond just complaining about the brutality, was focused on reform, was focused on welfare. You know, the 1 year on the panel had exposed myself to a lot of lessons about Nigeria. And we actually went out for Sars to say, oh, they are the most worst unit of the police. But I can confirm to you that what I understood by the 1 year process is that the culture of impunity that we tried fighting in Sars, it's a standard culture in the Nigerian police. All units, all police officer. So people, you know, my constituent will continue to complain that, oh, we still have Sars. No, the behavior are same in about 99.9% of police officers in Nigeria. So it brings us back to understanding that it is holistic. It is beyond just saying SARS should go and sit down and all of those. So we expect that, and I still want to say this, that going forward, we expect that rather than government thinking that they want to institutionalize human rights violations and all of that, and pay compensation because it seemed to be easy for them to pay, such funds can actually be deliberately put in reforming the police, put on welfare of the police, and you will see a better result. Because no matter the amount you give to people, no matter the amount of compensation we keep awarding, it's still not the solution. The solution is that all rights is respected and there's a civil way of engagement. So our expectation is not different. We are back to 5x5 by asking that police is well catered for, police is well taken care of. They have a very conducive environment. You know, even from private individuals, it is a fact that if you are not well kept in your office, you have less productivity. Same should be applied to police. You need to treat these people nice. You need to ensure they have good housing. I still believe that those fundamentals are going to solve the culture of impunity. Right. A man on the street is taking 10 naira, 5 naira, because he has a poor salary. Right.
We're going to go on a short break now, and we'll be back to continue on that point about the 5x5 demands. Take a short break now. Please stay with us. Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. We're still with our panel of Femi Okunu, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Additional Ogunlano, Counsel to the ENDSARS protesters at the Judicial panel, and Temitope Majekodumi, a youth representative on that Judicial panel. Before the break, Temitope, you were talking about the 5x5 demands, which a whole year after are still as timely as ever. So, Rufai.
Yeah. So, Temitope, you were enunciating the 5x5 demands. You talked about police welfare. What are the other parts?
Police reform.
Yeah, babe.
Okay. The panel, it's part of the 5x5, and the first of the 5x5 is what I would love to touch on, is in regards to any protesters being arrested in connection to ENDSARS protest, okay, that they be released unconditionally. You know, on Monday the 15th, while we had we were presenting the report to the governor of Lagos State, I'd mentioned to him, and that was my only request, however, that we needed all incarcerated persons be released unconditionally, and which he obliged immediately, that we should just forward the list. And, you know, because of my commitment to the panel for the 1 year, other lawyers, ENDSARS lawyers, and all of them had been on those cases, and we've always heard rumor of about 300 of them in custody at Kirikiri.
A year after.
Yes, a year after. So, which is even the most important thing at the moment. You know, it's you know, while I made the request was the fact that the governor was talking to me about the process for healing and reconciliation, and I just said to him, I said, the only request I have, which will kickstart that process, is when we have those incarcerated persons released unconditionally. And he obliged, and we are compiling the list now. By today, we should forward it through the Attorney General of Lagos State to the governor. And the second one, which is the panel, which we have come to a logical conclusion. And I would want to say that my opinion on what the panel has done is just very simple. Nothing political, nothing emotional about our findings, our reports. It should be taken in good faith. It was, like I said earlier, you know, we had consistent conversation within the panel to ensure that we are not too emotional to say because it is the people against the government or the government against the people, and we now make our findings to favor certain. So if you see the original copy, one of the things that we would find is very void of bias. And what I mean by that is that every party has something to learn in the report. So it's not just that the youth won, win-win, or the government won or lost. So everybody has something to learn in the reports.
Well, let me come to you very quickly, Mr. Okuno. How bad is this for the Lagos State government or the federal government of Nigeria? You recall that when all of this incident occurred in 2020, we had the state government saying, oh, it had no hand in the deployment of security persons to the Lekki tollgate. The federal government also denied that nobody died there. The Nigerian Army, the Nigerian police, they claimed nothing happened, and that people were just trying to blackmail the government of Nigeria. And now we have a panel saying the government of Nigeria was lying to the people. How bad is that?
We should accept the panel's report. The federal government is lying about the presence of the military at Lekki tollgate. The Lagos State government also has to make some comments about the presence of the army and also the presence of armed police. Armed police. I spoke of the 50s, of the 60s, what the police can do to disperse a crowd, as was done in the past, is tear gas, nothing more, nothing lethal, no gun. I have the privilege of being a friend of the police officer who threw tear gas at me at Tafa Balewa Square in 1962. We became friends later at a club. So what's next after this ENDSARS? What next? That's the issue. It's not private discussions with the governor, which one of the members of the panel, with due respect, has said he indulged after the presentation. What next? What next? To arrest youth restlessness. The youth are restless. The old are angry about the governance of this country over the years. Over the past 20, 30 years, the country has been misgoverned. Those in authority, most of them, not all of them, there are some honest ones amongst them in governance. But there are those who cater for their own pockets and don't care a hoot about public concern. My suggestion, the way forward to the Lagos State government, to arrest youth restlessness, have a dialogue with the youth. What do you want? What do you want us to do? And I have one or two suggestions in that respect. After the Second World War, the imperial government set up boys and girls boys clubs in the city of Lagos. We remember Hogan Bassi, the world bantamweight champion of the world. He started as a member of Ologbowo Boys and Girls Clubs. And what do they do? Ologbowo Boys and Girls Clubs, Okwawo Boys and Girls Clubs, Brazilian Quarters Boys and Girls Clubs in Lagos. What did they do? They learned boxing. They played Ludo. They played Ayo among themselves, boys and girls. They played football. Ologbowo Boys and Girls Clubs will engage Okwawo Boys and Girls Club in tennis, in football tournament. Brazilian Quarters will also, they had competition among themselves. They were playing fields in Lagos. There is none any longer. Bombata Field is gone. Bombata Field, that's at Ojogiwa Street, Lagos, next to Jankara Market. Bigger in size, about twice the size of Jankara Market itself, where Thunder Teslim Balogun learns his football. Baba Shitu, I think he was half back in those days. Experienced Otun, full back. They joined hands with IM, with Henshaw, with Salamo from Marine. That's the first team, football team, Nigerian team, that left the shores of this country to play football outside the country. The legendary Henshaw, the captain. I am center forward. Thunder Balogun, also a dribbler with the ball. That's where they learned their football. Okwawo playing fields. Where is Okwawo playing field now? It's a den of thieves. Market, motor park, nothing more. The youth are restless. Give them playing fields to express themselves. Cape Verde and Nigeria 1-1. Disgraceful. Cape Verde and Edo State 1-0. Well, we can take it like that. With Nigeria, with all your 200 million population, and Cape Verde, 1-1. The youth are restless. The old are angry about bad governance. So go back to the old days. Youth, boys and girls clubs in every local authority, local government in Lagos, as Governor Fashola promised to do. In regard to residents association, every local government. So you go back to, you must resuscitate or create a new Bombata field. Incidentally, Lagos State is busy sand-filling the swamps along Adeniji-Adele Road from Okepopo to Idumota. Restore Bombata field there. That's my message to the governor. Let the youth have a place to play and express themselves. Boys and girls clubs all over Lagos, all over Lagos State. The fields have gone. Isaragogo field is gone. It's at the other end of Ojogiwa Street. Brazilian Quarters, Campus Square, is gone. The swing, which we used to enjoy at Ajasa Street in those days as young persons, swings and all these playful things, is gone. It's now a depot. The swimming park, Randu Swimming Park, is gone. Where else you want the youth to express themselves? So play.
Thank you, sir.
The government must restore.
Thank you very much, sir. Mr. Ogudana, my question now is for you on how to chart a course forward. It's really quite depressing when you hear Mr. Okuno talk about the halcyon days when Lagos was Lagos, and it really underscores the tragedy of what we're discussing. Generation Z do not know that Lagos. Even millennials don't know that Lagos. How to go about appeasing the youth, because it's necessary.
Well, thank you. How to go forward is actually very simple. It's just the principle of glasnost and perestroika. Openness and accountability. You see, except we have, politically speaking, this idea of nobility, of being actual Democrats, being responsible, we cannot move forward. But if the political leaders, people who are holding the reins of governmental power, feel responsible, feel committed to the ideals of democracy, which has put them in power, because this is an elected government. Forget the antics or mis-antics or conduct of some people, especially at the federal government level. Forget that. The reality is that all what we have over the country is our elected officials, and we practice constitutional democracy, which makes the law to be the sovereign over everybody. And you should be accountable. The way forward is very simple. You set up a panel. The question is this: it is you who set up a panel. It's like a university. You set up a panel on over student disturbances, and you have indicted the students and everything. And then the panel, you set up the panel. You put deans there. You put in deans there. Just put only one student there as a representative of the students. And then the panel came out and said, oh, no. What we have found out, indeed, Mr. Vice Chancellor, you invited the police, and the police did this and this, that, and students were raped, and then the burning down of the hostel was done by the police. And therefore, it is not the students who did this. What you are supposed to do as a responsible authority is to accept the verdict and then implement it. So moving forward in Lagos State and in Nigeria is to be accountable to the people. The government, once it changes attitude and becomes accountable to the people and respect the people, you'll find that agencies of government, like the military, like the police, must follow suit. But because the government does not feel it's the government of the people, but it's the government on the people, the military behaves as if it's not the military for the people, but the military on the people. Likewise, the police, likewise, other services and all that kind of thing. That's why we have the problem. But we want to move forward. Then we need to be faithful to the ideals and jurisprudence of constitutional democracy. Once you can do that, we move forward. You feel accountable. Once you feel accountable, you cannot just, for example, now, as the president of the country, just be traveling all over the world. And when people say, this travel is getting too much, you get annoyed. When you set up a panel, you don't sit on it, you don't repress it. You are faithful and you implement it. And then the people, the citizens, will be encouraged to trust the government and cooperate with the government. For example, and pay their taxes, and they believe that the government is sincere. The same thing with the police. People will cooperate with the police when they don't see you as an agency that extort and oppress them. The same thing with the military. The military used to be popular with Nigerian people before, but since the past 5 or 10 years ago, they've lost the respect. Most of the time, they now see them as just brutal people. For example, see what happened at the Kuobi panel. The police struggled to come. They were there, but they didn't. We could have had better representation. The commissioner of police felt too big to come down. He set people down. Commissioner of police happened to be a member, for example, of the Security Council. He didn't come. The representative of the military at the Security Council of Lagos State didn't come. At midway, they ran away. And yet this military will be saying it's a professional body. a professional body must be subjugated, subordinated to civil authorities. This idea of that we are bigger than the people is the big hindrance to the growth of this country. So moving forward will depend a lot on the leaders and then on the citizens. Let me say this, all the problem is not with the leaders. The citizens of Nigeria, generally, they are even behaving like subdued subjects, too cowardly, too fearful. They don't ask for accountability, they don't demand for it, and they are not prepared to defend and promote democratic gains and rights. So this attitude must change, and that is what Sorosoke is preaching. Speak out to the authority and make the authority to become accountable. That is the way forward.
I'll come to you. As a young person, since we're talking about healing and trust, with this 1 year you've gone through this experience on this panel, one, do you trust government now? And two, how can we ensure trust? The young people get to trust their government again.
First is, I do not trust government yet, but what I've decided to do and what I've been advocating for amongst the youth of Lagos is the need to give a benefit of doubt, the need for us to come to table so that we can have these things ironed out if opportunity avail itself. And on the other hand, what need be done for restoration of hope and peace and justice on all sides it's quite simple. Government needs to take responsibility. You know, 1 year is funny that the 1 year, I looked at the trend, I looked at responses and all of that, and it is very worrisome, even as I speak, that government is focused on who is insurrectionist, who is this, who is that, and that. The true objective of young youths in the country standing up to ask for accountability. We are not calling for anybody's seats. We are not interested. The beauty of ENDSARS movement when it began until the very 20th when it was undermined, it's that we were only out to express our displeasure, which is, it is standard in any democratic setting. So the government has, for the 1 year, rather than take responsibility, because the 1 year while the panel is working, they had a work to do. Bridge the gap of distrust, bring people to the table, talk to us, show that side of you really want to settle. But rather there's this political, how do I say, the political side that they have decided to work on. You know, many of the Nigerian youth that we saw came out October last year, they are not even activists. But the need for them to just pour out their mind to the government that, oh, things are not going fine. It is becoming very difficult for us. And, you know, government, you can only judge a government by the level of what you feel as a citizen. And the government is throwing away the feelings of the people. You need to take it serious. You need, beyond it is election coming, it is whatever, oh, they are trying to unseat us, it is insurrection. You know, we had our president talked about the fact that we were, and I could remember that it was an interview with your station where he was saying that, do they remember those people that want to remove him during ENDSARS and all of that? That statement alone is very offensive to our beliefs and what we stood for. We were never interested in politics. We never played politics. All we stood up for is for a better country. The same way they claim that they are leading to make Nigeria better is the same way we had stood up to say we want a better. So everybody is working towards ensuring a better country. And it is not out of place for us to protest, and which the panel has also reaffirmed. It is within our rights. It is within the best thing the government should have done is to explore every means to negotiate. Every means, till the last minute. And 20th of October was never the last minute. It was even not the middle of the entire struggle in itself. So what they're going forward, what is important is for them to be responsible, regardless of who is in power, with all of them as a whole. They are quick to move on. They are quick to say, oh, election is coming and all of that. And I can't say it's going to be a great deal come 2023 because people will express their anger, their displeasure, let me put it that, their displeasure with their PVC. And they need to take that into consideration.
Okay, Mr. Ogunlano, let me come straight to you. Well, I mean, we have all of this. We've been talking about Lagos State. The panel, the Okuwobi panel, submitting its report. What's your take about other states? About 8 or 9 states, in fact, refused to set up panels. Some other states started, they suspended it. Even the FCT, tried to make an attempt and then suspended and came back. Do you think that all of these issues initiated by that October 2020 incident and also the resolve of the National Economic Council to say states should investigate, do you think there will be any difference? Because even after all of this, we've seen continued cases of police brutality. And yet the police are also saying that they are the victims, not the people. Policemen are saying, look, nobody is even talking about them.
Well, the police? Hello?
Yes?
Hello? Yes, I'm asking, well, let me just say that, may I speak on? Let me just say that you can't really expect uniformity or exact situations. There may be similarities. Apparently, the panel will be headed by retired jurists or serving jurists, and there will be lawyers on the panel. That will generally, that level of procedure will be similar. But you find out that the political environment of each state and the quality of persons may not exactly be the same. And I think Mr. Majakodomi was right. I've listened to one of his interviews, maybe this morning too, about maybe relative sincerity of or good performance of the Lagos State government with regard to the Okuwobi panel setup. It was funded, it was speedy. Generally, despite the challenges, I didn't have the feeling that the panel felt overwhelmed. Unlike some other states where they said they had to suspend cities because of lack of funding, they had to wait for about 6 months and all that to come back again. That would not be so encouraging, And I want to say that if other people complain, for example, like the police, they too have a right. They are citizens. And I don't think it is right that police should be excluded. In Lagos State, they are even accommodated. Their petitions, they were allowed to bring their petitions, and they were specially accommodated if they too complain, because the ENDSARS crisis is when protests itself ended on 20th October. But after 20th October, from the evening of 20th October till about second week in November, there was quite a lot of rage all over the country, and face-offs between all sorts of characters, violent characters, citizens who you call criminal elements, engaging the police, engaging the soldiers, and the processes. In the process, police stations were burnt down, police officers were attacked, and all that. I think there were a lot of lootings too. And to that extent, these people are victims too, but they are victims of post-ENDSARS crisis disturbances. But they should be taken care of too. And it is not out of place of the government if it wants to set up another committee or another panel nationwide to look at all this. Part of building up. In fact, ordinarily, Nigerians are good people. And they do express their support for government when they see government performing. We have seen when police act well, people do give them cooperation. And then when they see anybody trying to be rude or hostile to police officers, Nigeria will say, but the officer has not asked too much now. Why are you attacking him? And they try to shield officers. So if they complain about being neglected, it should be looked into. At any rate, the ENDSARS protests, we even talked about them too, that their remuneration should be improved upon. By the way, I am of the firm opinion that the Nigerian police is beastly because of underfunding. They do not really have enough to work with in terms of forensics. Because if you don't have forensics, the idea would be to be very primitive, to extract facts or information by force from people. And if you are underpaid and you have to be servicing your own employment by private means, it will induce you, encourage you to extra-legal things like bribery, like extortion, because you have to run the station. And we understand that the DPOs receive maybe 20,000 or 30,000 naira monthly. How can you 20,000 to run the station? That's by too low. So I think if it's police that is complaining, I think they have a right to to be taken care of. But their leadership should resist being misled and misused by political office holders and turn themselves into private armies for all these very selfish governors, selfish chairmen of local government, very selfish presidents. Because there was a situation in this country where a governor of a state was abducted by policemen, policemen, and that's increasing Gige. Nabra, under the presidency of Olusegun Obasanjo. Too bad. All this kind of attitude should be eschewed, and it's both ways. Government should protect and fund the police properly, and the police too itself should imbue higher level of professionalism in the discharge of their duties. You see, on October 18th, or whichever day, when there was the protest, October 20, when there was a protest at the Lekki tollgate, I was there. You know, I interacted with the police. I remember one police chief threatened me over the phone that if not, they are going to use tear gas, and if tear gas is not enough, they are going to shoot. I mean, you could see that kind of attitude is wrong. And tear gas was used, which fair enough. There are no reports of casualty and everything. Arrests were made of people seen with weapons and all that. And I think that's okay. Nobody can fault the police there. But this attitude that we will repress you, we will not allow you to exercise your fundamental right of freedom of association, freedom of expression, all these are very unprofessional attitude. You must, the police or the military or any other security agency must not feel above the law. That's promoting executive rascality and irresponsibility. And the people who are not going to continue to allow that to happen. Hence, you have the bloody confrontation. But they should improve. The lessons are there for everybody who wants to learn to learn.
I'm going to come back to you, Temitak, but earlier on you said that the report showed that it wasn't like a win for the youth necessarily, that there were lessons to be learned across the board. So what lessons were to be learned or are to be learned by the youth?
Fairly, I think the report spoke about some issues around how that social media was helpful, and that social media was also a means at which unverified information were being spread. So that way, you know, is one thing to say, as a lesson for us to know that even when you see an information, there's need for you to check again before you react and all of that. So Yes, social media was very helpful for us during the ENDSARS, and also it has its disadvantage. So we pointed that out, and for the youth to basically learn. You know, on the side of the government, what is important is there is ambiguity as to what has happened. The youth are alleging, the government are defending or also alleging that it is not true, it is true. So what has happened is it's not about us winning the government or us losing the fight. It's that it happened, we have stated it. Let us focus on the facts of the matter. Army came, yes. Came with blanks, yes. Came with life, yes. Persons were shot at, yes. Police, yes. So these things are not intended to attack anybody. They are just the facts of the matter, and which we have no reason as panelists to compromise our findings on either it was not clear enough. It is clear. The ambiguity is solved. So we should focus on that and take responsibility going forward.
Okay. I'll come to you, Mr. Okunu. Sir, as a man in his late 80s, 88, if by, the data I have in front of me serves me right, you have a clear feel of this country from its colonial days to what it is today. You've served in a military government. You've seen various democracies in this country. What's your take on the future of Nigeria's democracy?
It's a bit bleak. And what we've been saying is to make it better. As a young person, youthful in the 60s, the dreams we had about the role of Nigeria in world politics was to be the leading country in Africa, economically, politically, and we had the wherewithal to be in that position, notwithstanding the apartheid regime in South Africa. That dream was lost years later. Well, we still have a chance, population 200 million, so they say, one of the largest in Africa. We still have a chance to play a leading role. Nigeria is not in the group G20 in the world. We thought Nigeria would be very much in the first 10 in the world. That dream is gone. We tried, when we were in government, we tried our best. But we are not talking of what the various governments did one time or the other. We way forward. I still say this, that the governor of Lagos State should convene a meeting with the youth. What do you want? What can we do for you? The government of the country, which is in control of the army and the police, must own up their mistake in shooting people to death. It must never happen again. Never again. Never again in years to come, or at all. The army should not even have come in. They shouldn't have come in. With police, yes. Police, tear gas. That's all. In the world, we see it in social media, TV stations. The police use tear gas or water cannon, as we see on the border between Bulgaria and Poland. You don't use live ammunition. Whether it's one person killed at tollgate last year or not, it's one too many. You don't kill. You don't disperse a crowd to kill if you want to be their friend. It's interesting to hear the young persons now defending the police. Police is a federal institution. The type of constitution we are advocating for, which I have been advocating for, go back to 1960-63 constitution, when the states, there are too many of them now, there used to be 4 in those days, with Midwest in 63, when the state government still had control, some control of the police. I'm in favor of state police to keep peace and order, not to shoot. The army is an external body to fight wars. What's happening in Borno State is external war. The terrorists, not just Boko Haram, the terrorists, Islamic State of Africa. That's war. That's where the army should be. Not to interfere with maintenance of internal peace. External, yes, that's what the role of the army. The army should not have come at all. Whoever sent the army made a cardinal mistake. ENDSARS should be never again. I endorse the comment of one of the panelists about those who damaged police property or public property, burnt the High Court with all the records and history. That's bad. But ordinarily protesting by voice or placards, you don't shoot. The police, the army rather, should not have been there at all. They had no role. External war, yes. Internal, no. So the way forward, the Constitution, I'm in favor of the Constitution, going back to 1960-63, with or without these 33 states. The judiciary belongs to the states, not federal. Every state should have its own independent judiciary. They elect their own chief justice, apart from justices on the bench, as it used to be, as it was in the time of Gawan, military regime. Go back to those days. Hello? The power of the federal government has grown beyond recognition, is growing, and ought to be diminished. Let the states, in a federal system of government, manage their affairs themselves. Governors should not be marching to Abuja for money. They destroyed the revenue allocation system, which was modeled by our leaders in the late 50s for 1960 Constitution. 50% of profits from the products from your state or your region, from 50 reduced to 13. The federal government had only 20%. The federal government today has about between 50 and 60%. That is not federal system of government. We should go back to true federalism as it existed in Nigeria before. That's part of my suggestion. Go back to the past and look forward.
Thank you very much, Chief Femi Okuno. One viewer sent me a text saying, you kept saying Mr. Okuno. The correct title is Chief Femi Okuno, SAN. I stand corrected. Thank you also, Mr. Additional Ogunlano. And thank you very much, Temitope Majekodome, for joining us in the studio here. Thank you very much.